Bishana tova tikatevu, Bishana tova tikatevu, tikatevu, Bishana tova.
Bishana tova tikatevu, Bishana tova tikatevu, tikatevu, Bishana tova.
Shana tova, everyone. Gamar Chatima Tova, may we all be sealed for a good year in this year of 5784. We welcome all of you on this Yom Kippur evening that we know more commonly as Kol Nier. We're thrilled to have Chazan Alexander Berkovich back with us again. And we're also thrilled to have Moses back on the piano with us as well this evening. And another little musical surprise, or musical treat, I should say, this evening. As we begin our service, we begin with lighting our Yom Tov candles, and we'd like to invite to lead us in our candle lighting some of the families, the students and parents of some of our 7th graders, that I know some of them are here. So if you're here as I call you, or I don't call you, you can all come up and join me up here. So we'd like to invite the Blue family and the Rayner family and the Rosenberg family and the Riggs family and the Defendini family and the Dowell family and any or all of the above that are here. Or if you think you're in 7th grade and I didn't call you, you can come too. I think you're representing the whole crew. That works. It's all good. We got one more. Here we go. We got a few more coming up. These are our families of upcoming B'nai Mitzvah, and I expect when the Bar Mitzvah or Bat Mitzvah happens that all of you are going to be filling the room just like this to celebrate with us on those days. So, who wants to be the official lighter? Move closer, move closer. Go for it. We can all join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. And we continue with Shehechianu. Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu lazman hazeh. Amen. Kol Nier. Aramaic words that mean all of the vows. The words were written, we think, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 years ago in Israel, or in Babylonia, or somewhere else. We don't really know. When the words were originally written, most scholars believe it was written somewhere in a place where Jews were being persecuted. So that narrows it down to most of the world. And at first, the rabbis resisted the prayer. The very first prayer book, the first Siddur and the first Machzor, was written by Amram Gaon in the 8th century in Babylonia. We were told from his own writings that he said that this, not prayer, but statement, because it's not a prayer, it's a statement. He said that this statement was, in his words, a collection of stupid words. That's what he said. But the people said, we need something because we're being persecuted for the vows that we've made. We're being persecuted for praying the way we pray, and we want something that we can say to give us permission to move in a different way. And so eventually, Amram Gaon added these words of Kol Nier into the Yom Kippur service, along with the other very famous prayer that you've all heard of, Kol Nidarim. Anybody heard of Kol Nidarim? I'm the only one. There's another person there, two of us. Kol Nidarim was the original companion prayer that was said at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. Clearly it didn't become as famous and it disappeared from the service. But Kol Nier stayed with Yom Kippur in that original prayer book. And over the centuries, people have said, how should we listen to Kol Nier? This prayer, repeated 3 times, or this statement, repeated 3 times. How should we hear it? One rabbi suggests this, and this comes from nearly 1,000 years ago. The first time, we should focus on the words. What do the words, these Aramaic words, and we have a translation in our Machzor on page number 5. What do these words mean to me? They said the second time, this rabbi wrote, the second time we should focus on the sound of the prayer. Not so much the words, but the sound. Those notes that have become familiar to us to transport us into our place of prayerfulness. That place, that melody. We only need a few notes. 3 will get you there, right? La, la, la. That's all we need. And we know where we are. We are together for Yom Kippur. And then the third time, he recommended, find that one thing in your heart, in your soul, that to this point leading up to Yom Kippur, you have either not given forgiveness or you have not asked for forgiveness. And in the third time through, concentrate on that aspect. So we've set up our music this evening of Kol Nier to be exactly this idea. To first, listen and concentrate on the words. To second, listen and concentrate on the music. And the third, to put us in a place to be able to concentrate on those last pieces of our forgiveness as we stand before God. In a moment, we'll all rise. We'll say the formula of standing before the court of the heavens and the court of the people. And as we hear the words of Kol Nier, a group of our past presidents will bring our Sifrei Torah, our Torah scrolls, up to the Bima. As we do, and we'll all rise now, I'll ask Elena and Mark Rathman to come and open our ark doors. As we turn to page number 5, and before the words of Kol Nier, we ask permission before God to stand before the heavenly court and the human court to confess our sins.
Or zaru al tzadik uleishri lev simcha. Or zaru al tzadik uleishri lev simcha. Or zaru al tzadik uleishri lev simcha.
The top of page 5.
Bishiva shel mala ubishiva shel mata al dat hamakom ve'al dat hakachal anu matirin lehitpalel im havaryanim Bishiva shel mala ubishiva shel mata al dat hamakom ve'al dat hakachal anu matmirin להתפלל עם חבריינים. בשיבה של מעלה ובשיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם חייו עבריינים.
With the authority of the divine court on high, and with the authority of the earthly court below, with agreement by God and this holy congregation, we permit all to pray with those of us who have sinned.
Kol Nier ושרי וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות din darna udeishtavana udeacharimna vediasarna al nafshatana din darna udeishtavana udeacharimna udeacharimna sarna al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim abaleinu letova kolchan icharatna vehon kolchan iasharan iasharan shvitin beteilin umvutalin lo shirin velo kayamin nidrana lo nidrei vesarana lo esarei ushevuatana lo shevuot Kol Nier vesarei vacharamei vekonamei vechinuyei vekinosei ushevuot din darna odehi shtabana odeha karimna vedasarna nafshata ana miyom kippurim ze ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova kolchan icharat naveon kolchan yisharan Shvitin, shvitin, betelin, umvutalin, tashirin, velakayamin, nidrana, la nidrei, sarana la sarei ushevuatana la shevuot ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל חם בשגגה סלח נא לעוונך המחזה כגודל חסדך וכאשר נסעת לעמך זה ממצרים ועד קנען ושם נאמר Vayomer Adonai Elohei, Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha, Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Before you take any steps off those steps, as we're all standing, one of the things we do is we stand to honor the Torah, but we also stand to honor people who have served our community. And many of our past presidents, not all of them, but a good number of our past presidents are on our bima right now. And we are grateful for all of the dedication that they thought they were only going to be president for a year or two or three, but they've all really been president for decades and decades because of all of the dedication that they've done since those years that they volunteered. Am I wrong?
No.
Everyone on this bima served as president for a few years, but has served this congregation for, if we added it all up, I think we're not counting decades, we're counting centuries of dedication to the temple up here. And so we thank you and all those in our congregation who have served on our board of directors to keep our congregation going over these 50 plus years. So Shana Tova to all of you and Toda Rabah to all of you. We continue before we're seated. We got one more prayer before you get to sit, and then I promise you get to sit down after that prayer. It's on page number 9, as we now call ourselves to prayer with the words of Baruch Hu at the top of page 9.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
We can all be seated.
Baruch
We continue as we give thanks for all of God's creation, as we come to the close of these days of awe. We say thank you, God, for creating the evening, for rolling the stars away from the moon and the sun and bringing day from night and night from day. We praise you, God, who brings on the evening. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach sharim, ubitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim. ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמורותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. לי, 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 La 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 la. Borei yom velayla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom, u'mevi layla, uma'avdil bin yom uvein layla, Adonai tzivaot shemo. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu, le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ama'avi, Aravi. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. We continue as we'd like to invite Beth Zimmerman to lead us in a meditation.
Praise are you, our God, who arranges the season and the stars, who restores day and night, and who has brought on the evening twilight. When we meditate on this universe, which you created new day after day, we are filled with wonder and awe. We see ourselves as tiny specks in a vast universe, and we are filled with fear. You seem too busy to be concerned with our lives, and we feel alone. We see the difference between ourselves as we are and as we might be, between ourselves as we are and as we would like to be, and we feel inadequate and powerless. But you, God, you understand what we feel. You know how our souls can be released from their bonds, and so, through your great love for your people, you have given us a precious gift, the Torah. When we study your Torah and observe its commandments, we find that, small though we are more important in your plan than the mightiest star. And we find that far away though you seem, in reality, you are no farther away than our own hearts. And we find that, powerless though we feel, with you we gain strength. We will therefore study your Torah and grasp the way of life that it offers us at every possible opportunity. We will rejoice over the words of your Torah and the fulfillment of your commandments, for they are our very lives, and they add a new dimension to our days. So we will tirelessly try to understand and live by them. Through them, we always have access to your love. Blessed are you, Adonai, loving your people, Israel.
Amen. As we speak of these words of love, we have a lot of people who give to our congregation love. We want to thank Beth for organizing all of our usher crew. So thank you, Beth, for that. And while I'm saying thank yous, Karen and Rick, thank you for giving your beautiful music to us during Kol Nier as well tonight. And it's amazing how much talent we have in this place, isn't it? It's just beautiful. We continue with the words of Ahavat Olam on page number 10, giving thanks for this gift of Torah that we let shine through the light of our hearts and the light of our souls.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך, אהבת תורת ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו וקומנו, נסיע בחוקיך, ונשמע בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובכם נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
On page number 11, we come to the words of Shema. We read in ancient times when the scribe Ezra began having services in the courtyard of the temple after returning from Babylonian exile, that the early service had only a few parts to it. Shema, the recitation of the Ten Commandments, and a couple of other things. Through the years, the Ten Commandments disappeared from this portion of the service, but the words of Shema stayed to remind us of the singleness, the oneness of God, and our love of God and God's love of us. We continue together with the words of Shema, page 11.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevot Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים כאלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently, page 12, in the very top paragraph of 13. We'll join together again when we reach the top of 13. שמען יבוא ימיכם ומבניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני על אבותיכם לתת להם מהשמיים על הארץ.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור בן דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליכם ועשו לכם ציצית על כנפי בגדיכם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף וטיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריכם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים לחיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem emet.
On page 14, we come to the beginning of a prayer, Geula, our prayer of redemption, our prayer of freedom. It's a good time to be reminded of the freedom of our particular Machzor. For those of you who were not with us on Rosh Hashanah and are with us on this Yom Kippur, we'll remind you that our Machzor has a particular pattern to it. As you see, both pages have the same number, both pages that are facing you. Starting on the left-hand side, we have a transliteration of the Hebrew, so if you're not a Hebrew expert, you can read in the transliteration. On the inner column, we have the Hebrew in Hebrew. We have the translation of the Hebrew on the right-hand side. And then finally, on the far right-hand column, we have guideposts, we have comments, we have commentaries, we have meditations, we have teachings, things that will help you along the way with things to think about, things to bring into your minds and into your soul as we make our way through the service. So whichever one of the columns you're in the correct column. Whatever page you're on the right page. I know that might sound strange, but if you wind up reading something beautiful on page 14 or any other page, and you're lost on that page for a little while, that's a great place to be, because it means that your mind and your soul are engaged in a connection with God and talking to God. I promise you we'll catch you up to the page the rest of us are on a little bit later, and you'll have a beautiful moment for yourself, and then you'll come back to the rest of us later. But now, maybe, if you're with me, we turn to page 14. As we come to the words of Geulah, the prayer of redemption, that speaks about our leaving the places in Egypt, a place of slavery, a place of narrowness, just as our souls now on this Yom Kippur leave a place of emotional slavery, of spiritual narrowness. And we look toward a future where we will cross in the middle of that parted, beautiful sea of redemption and bring our souls to a place of freedom. We continue with the words of Geulah, Emet ve'emunah, the top of page 14.
Emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, kol zot. Ve'kayam aleinu, emet ve'emunah, kol zot. Ki hu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ein zulato, v'anachnu Israel Amo. Emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, kol zot. Ve'kayam aleinu, emet ve'emunah, kol zot.
All this we regard as true and reliable, that we, Israel, your people, and that you, Adonai, are our God, and there is nothing besides you. You struck in your anger all the firstborn of Egypt, and you extracted your people Israel from there, bringing them to eternal freedom. You led your children between the divided waters and sank their pursuers and enemies in the depths of the sea. When your children saw this display of power, they sang praises to your redeeming name, and they willingly accepted you as their ruler.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליכם משה ומרים ובני ישראל הכנו שירה בשמך רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקיים לפני משה זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני מלך לעולם תפדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלום יד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
על ישראל
Amen. We ask God to lie us down in peace, to cause us to rise again tomorrow to life, to keep us protected as we sleep from enemy and plague and sword, from hunger, pain, and evil spirits, to spread a shelter of peace over us, over all of Israel, over all the Jewish people, and over all the world. We say the words of Hashkivenu, our Jewish lullaby, on page 15.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, leshalom, leshalom, Hashkivenu, v'hamidenu, Malkeinu, lechaim, lechaim, Hashkivenu, ufros aleinu, sukat shelomecha, v'takneinu, Beitza tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu leman shemecha, hashkivenu, v'chagein badeinu, v'haser me'aleinu, oyev dever, v'hera v'era v'yagon, v'chaser satan, milfaneinu machareinu, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה, יהל מלך חנון ורחום, ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו, ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבורא סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועד ירושלים.
What's the real name of the lullaby in Russian?
A lullaby, the word for lullaby.
How do you say it in Russian? The name of the
Колыбельная.
the melody that Chazan Berkovich sang for Hashkivenu is actually it's an old Russian lullaby
From old Russian movie.
from an old Russian movie and a beautiful.
And written by Jewish composer indeed.
There we go. So it's very Jewish. It's Jewish and Russian, like this guy.
Kosher proof.
Kosher for, and just a beautiful melody for a beautiful prayer that speaks of our lullaby. We all rise now as we turn to page 17. As at the bottom of the page, we announce this day of Yom Kippur.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם, לתחר אתכם מכל חטאיכם, לפני אדוני תתארו.
We continue page 18 with Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם, בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך, יתברך ויתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen.
We turn to page 31. Page 31 as we begin our evening Amidah, as we stand before God as a community, as individuals, and say, the God of our ancestors, may you hear our prayers just as you heard theirs.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Ve'Elohei Leah האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונך הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם למען שמו באחווה זכרנו לחיים מלך חפץ בחיים וכותבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה כל חי אתה רב להושיח מוריד חתל מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה כל חי ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך הרחמים זוכר יצורה לחיים ברחמים ונאמן אתה לחיות כל חי ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי כל חי.
Top of 33. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. We continue silently through the end of page number 38. When you're finished with those pages, please be seated and we'll join back together then. In ancient times, we asked for God to hear our prayers through the fire and through the smoke of the altar in the inner sanctums of the ancient temple. Today, we ask God to hear our prayers through the spiritual fire, through the emotional smoke that we send up to the heavens, so that we might send our prayers on our spiritual altar in God's direction. On page 39, we continue as we say, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, may our words to you, God, may they be pleasing in your eyes.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amecha Yisrael, U'tefilatam be'achava tekabel, Tehil ratzon, tamid avodat Israel. Israel amecha. El karov lechol koraf penel avdecha vechoneinu shefoch ruchacha aleinu vetechezena eneinu beshuvecha lezion berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato Letzion Letzion Letzion.
We acknowledge your presence in our lives. We thank you for all of our blessings. We bow to you, for you are our Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors forever and ever. You are the rock of our lives. You are the shield of our salvation from every generation to generation. We sing the words of Modim, giving thanks to God. Page 39. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu leolam va'ed Tzur chayeinu Magin Yisheinu Atahu Lidor Vador Atahu Lidor Vador Modim Anachnu Lach She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu V'imotenu Le'olam Va'ed Tzur chayeinu Magin Yisheinu Atahu Lidor Vador, Atahu Lidor Vador. Baruch atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha Chan El Hodot. We bless you, Adonai. Your essence is goodness. It is fitting to acknowledge, to thank, and to bow before you. We continue as we turn to page 42. A prayer of peace, a great amount of peace. Shalom Rav. May you bring to Israel your people and to all the world, for you are the one who brings peace to all the world.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Yatachum melech adon lechol shalom v'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol et v'chol shah bishlomecha. Besefer Chaim beracha v'shalom, beracha v'shalom ufarnasa tova, beracha v'shalom nizacher v'nikateitz lefanecha. אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה shalom.
We continue on page 49. So we say, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, God, my rock and my redeemer. Yiyu liratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lifanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, may they all be acceptable unto you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. You Duratso Imrefi Vegyo Libi Lifanecha Adonai Suri Virgo Ali Adonai Suri Virgo Ali. We conclude this section of our service with Oseh Shalom, with words asking for peace.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yeshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen.
As we turn to page 53, we come to the section of our service on this Yom Kippur where we say words of slichot, words of apology. If we've been doing our work of this time of year, as the words on this page say, we're asking for forgiveness in the evening, we're giving forgiveness in the morning, we're giving forgiveness in the evening, and we're asking for forgiveness in the morning. It's a never-ending cycle that, according to some rabbinic scholars, we should have begun on Rosh Hashanah. According to other rabbinic scholars, we should have begun on Tisha B'Av. And according to some other rabbinic scholars, we should have begun the moment Yom Kippur ended last year. But whether it is that we are saying our apologies and giving our forgiveness and digging deep into a cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of our souls every day or once a week or once a month, or even if it's just these moments that we spend together here in our synagogue and in synagogues around the world, we take our time to stand before God and to say, as the gates of the heavens are as wide as they can be according to our tradition, that we stand before you, God, in awe, and we hope that our pleas will rise up to the heavens, up to you, that they'll rise across the land to all those to whom we send them. We begin this section of our service with these words of Ya'aleh Tachnunenu.
Yale, yale, tachanunenu merev, ve'yavo shavateinu mi boker, ve'era erinunenu ad erev, ve'era erinunenu ad arev, yale, yale, koleinu merev, ve'yavo tzidkateinu mi boker, ve'ra epidonenu ad arev, ve'ra יעלה עלינו מערב, ויבוא סליחתנו מבוקר, וירא נקתנו עד ערב, וירא נקתנו עד ערב. יעלה מנושאנו, יבוא למנותנו. יעלה נקתנו מערב, ויבוא אליך מבוקר, וירא אלינו עד ערב.
In the middle of page 54,
לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצור ישענו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו, צדק ומשפט בכל כיסאך, צדק ומשפט בכל כיסאך, חסד ואמת יקדמו פניך, אשר לא חיים וכוח, שאו ושד ידיו יצרו, אשר בידו נפש כל חי, ורוח כל בשר איש, הנשמה לך, והגוף פלח, וסלמה לך, הנשמה לך, והגוף שלך, אדוני עשה למען שמך, עתנו על שמך, אדוני עשה למען שמך, בעבור כבוד שמך, כי אל חנון ורחום שמך, דרכך אלוהינו, להאריך אפיך, לרעים ולטובים, והיא תהילתך למען שמך, אדוני, וסלחת לעווננו, כי רב הוא.
on page 55, we come to a pute, a liturgical poem, written based upon one sentence from the book of Jeremiah and then expanded by a poet some many hundreds of years whose name has been lost among the centuries. The poem speaks of the idea, kihine kachomer. Imagine that we are like clay and God molds us. As we hear our chazan sing the first paragraph of this beautiful poem, you can read through the Hebrew or through the English these beautiful ideas of imagine ourselves as these various materials that God can grasp, that God can mold, and that we, along with God, can mold ourselves into an image taken from whatever material there may be. The materials that are listed in the poem, the materials of our hearts, the materials of our souls, the material of our being, and how can we mold it and form it into something greater than it is now. This is the idea of this beautiful poem, and we hear some of its words now.
כי הנה כחומר בידך יוצר, ברצותו מרחיב וברצותו מקצר, כן אנחנו בידך חסד נוצר, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר, כי הנה האבן ביד המסתת, ברצותו הארץ, וברצותו מחטאת. כן אנחנו בידך, בחיי ומותת, לברית הבית, לברית הבית, ואל תפל ליצר, כי הנה הגזר, ברצות, כי הנה ביד המלאכים. כי הנה ככסף ביד חצורב, ברצותו מששק וברצותו מצרף, כי אנחנו בידך, מה מציל למזור טרף. לברית הבית, ואל תפן ליצר.
The words that end each stanza of this poem say, please focus on our covenant, not on our flaws. The idea is that maybe God will watch over what we do to build our community and not the faults that we commit along the way. It's a good time to stop and think about how can we help build our community. And to share some thoughts in that realm, I'd like to invite the president of our congregation, Robert Grossman, to share some thoughts at this moment as we stand before God and say, God, please focus on where you would like us to go, where you can guide us in working together to continue to move forward into a beautiful world.
Yeah, I get to take this off for a minute. L'shana tova tikatevi, may you all be inscribed for a good year. Once again, I'm up here doing one of the things I dislike the most, speaking in front of a large group of people. Some of you know me through our interactions here at the temple. Some of you heard about me or of me. And admit it, some of you would rather not be listening to me right now and just hope the service ends really quickly. Regardless, as president of this extremely diverse community, I'm positive there's something I may have done to make you upset at times. As I mentioned in my September Bulletin article, you know the thing I write every month, this is my last chance to publicly ask you to forgive me for anything I might have done to offend or anger you in the past year. I'm not making excuses for anything. But if you've not read other articles in the bulletin, attended events at our temple, had discussions with members during Oneg or Kiddush following services, ours is a very diverse community, so keeping everyone happy, it ain't possible. Although we try very hard to do so. If this broad apology is not sufficient, please reach out to me directly so we can discuss whatever issues we may have, settle them, and start the year afresh. Now with that out of the way, I'm sure you've heard the old joke about the two Jewish guys who were found on a desert island after being stranded for years. The rescuers saw 3 very beautiful buildings on the island and asked what they were. One of the gentlemen responded that they were the synagogues serving the island. Why 3 of them? Oh, said one of the men, I go to the one on the right for Friday night services. My friend goes to the other one on the left for Saturday morning services. And then both of them yelled, but don't go to the middle one, they're Meshugana. In some ways, the middle synagogue kind of reminds me of Temple Shalom. Not that we're Meshugana, although some would argue we are, but that we serve both the gentlemen on the island and everyone else that attends with their own Jewish background and history. When I first joined this community, I was told, if you're more Reform, come on Friday night. And if you're more conservative, come on Saturday morning. Since I was a child, my parents set aside Friday nights for a family Shabbat dinner. It was a moment where we put the busy week behind us and had a meal where we caught up on what was happening in all of our lives. My parents forbid my brothers and I to get together our friends until after the meal. It was a very family-oriented, spiritual moment. Charla, my wife, some of you may know, and I created the same dynamic in our family. Friday night is when we all get together and have Shabbat dinner, and luckily, it now includes our grandchildren. But from time to time, we come to Friday night services either before or after dinner, depending upon the time of year and events. Although because of our family Shabbat dinner tradition, my typical attendance is Saturday morning. But I get the same spiritual boost regardless of which service I attend. Maybe because I realize that there are numerous ways to speak with God, and any service we hold here creates that special opportunity for that spiritual conversation. Over the years, I've come to realize that the way we describe our communities to others and to ourselves, and the way we comment about how others celebrate their Jewishness, we're creating a mechitza, the Orthodox physical barrier between men and women, in our community. Not to separate men from women, obviously, but to separate Reform members from conservative members. Yet we're all Jewish and all pray to the same God. This view of our community has been discussed in several venues, from the board to committees to before and after events run by our temple and elsewhere. As a result, there are many within our community that want to knock down this mechitza and find a way to be Colorado Springs' complete Jewish community. I, for one, am all for breaking down this barrier that divides us. If we want this to happen for our community, then we must all recalibrate our mindset and determine if it is more important to be a Reformed or conservative Jew or a Temple Shalom community Jew. Look for opportunities to help us reach that goal soon. Saturday morning, August 12th, we read Re'eh. Within the complete reading is chapter 15, verses 4 and 5. Ki yeh v'chahev yon me'achar achecha b'chad sharecha be'artzecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach lo ta'ametz et levavecha v'lo tifotz et yadecha me'achecha ha'evyon ki patoach tiftach et yadecha lo v'ha'avet ta'avitenu de machsoroho asher yechsar loho. For those of you that don't speak Hebrew, if, however, there's a needy person among you, one of your kin in any of your settlements in the land that your God Adonai is giving you, do not harden your heart and shut your hand against your needy kin. Rather, you must open your hand and give whatever is sufficient to meet the need. This is a clear message from God that in order to ensure the ongoing viability of our community, it is everyone's responsibility to give whatever you can. There are two essential ways to support our community: time and finances. We have a magnificent staff: Rabbi Jay Sherwood, Executive Director Kobe Chumash, Education Coordinator Talia Arya Weiss, Preschool Administrator Elia Emmerich Hart, Office Coordinator Lise Pellerin, Seniors Program Coordinator Susan Schenk, and our maintenance man, Milton Feud. They put in an amazing amount of time and energy to ensure Temple Shalom is always available for our community's needs, but they alone are not enough to ensure our success. We have an active board of directors, dedicated and active committees, thank you all, and regular volunteers to help out. But quite honestly, to maintain active religious learning and social activities, we need more help. More volunteers giving quality time to support the temple and keep things going the way we'd like them to go, just like tonight. We want to keep offering wonderful programs and activities for our community, but we need your help to keep doing so. When you get home, look at the temple calendar on. Very good. And the events we have planned. I'll throw your biscuit to you later, after Yom Kippur. Find a way to help support the groups responsible for the events. Join a committee, contribute more of your time, and become actively engaged at your Jewish home. We desperately need to expand our volunteer base for events and committees. I regularly hear from members that they're tired of the same old things. If you keep going to the pantry that is loaded with the same stuff you always buy at the store, you will get the same boring meals. Change the menu and spice up our community by getting involved. We're looking for some new ingredients to offer a better buffet of options to revitalize our committees and ensure their continuance for years to come. I understand the demands that normal everyday life puts upon you. I still have teenagers at home. My goal here is not to overwhelm or upset you, but to hopefully light that spark inside you to help make a difference in our community through the commitment of time when you're able. The Budget and Finance Committee collaborates hard with our staff to find ways to reduce expenses and balance the budget. Our current due structure is designed to balance the budget. I'm sorry, excuse me. If every member pays the sustaining annual dues. We recognize that there are those in our community that struggle financially and have abatement agreements with Temple Shalom to give what they can afford. This always creates a budget shortfall. So if you have the ability to give more, consider increasing your membership and increase your planned donation to the Kol Nier appeal this year. As you consider your Kol Nier donation, I urge you to increase it by an additional denomination of chai. $18, $36, $72, $180, $1,800, $18,000, whatever you can give, please give. Whatever you choose to do, offer more of your time, offer more in your donations, or a combination of both. Know that what you give is very much appreciated by our community and ensures that Temple Shalom remains our Jewish home now and for generations to come. Gemar Chatima Tova, may you be sealed in the book of life.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. My microphone will work again in just a moment. Please know that our Yom Kippur appeal continues on not just on Yom Kippur, but through the rest of our holiday. There we go, that's a little better. Please remember that our Yom Kippur appeal, it's an important aspect of our community, and we do want to have 100% participation. So even the smallest amounts, if we have every single person in the congregation participate, it helps, as Robert said, grow all of the programs and all of the wonderful things that we do. Among those wonderful things that we do is we raise our voices together. And when we do, whether it's on Yom Kippur or other holidays, when it's in community events, we come together and say before God in many different ways, in prayer, in actions, Shema Kolenu. It means hear our voice. We'll find the words of this prayer, Shema Kolenu, on page 57. As we all rise, we'll call Roberta Hutner and Danny Schnee to open our ark doors.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus verachem aleinu, aleinu, vekabel berachamim, ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. השיבנו אדוני אליך, השיבנו אליך ונשובה חדש ימינו, ימינו כקדם. אל תשליכנו, אל תשליכנו לזקנה ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו. שמע קולנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, וקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו.
We could all be seated. Among the many beautiful piyutim, the beautiful liturgical poems is one called Ki Anu Amecha. It's on page 60 in the middle of the page in your machzor. It speaks of 12 different relationships of God. The original poet was thinking of the idea of the 12 tribes of Israel, and that each one of those sons of Jacob had a different relationship with God. And if we represent those 12 tribes, then we ourselves have another relationship with God than perhaps the person sitting next to us. The poem came about in this way, giving us an idea of different ways that we can relate to God, and that probably through our lifetimes, we switch from one to another. Perhaps over our lifetime, we'll have experienced each and every one. We join together in the words of Ki Anu Amecha, in the middle of page 60.
כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו, אנו כחלך ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך ואתה רוענו, אנו חרמך ואתה נוטרנו, אנו פועלתך ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו.
We turn to page 62 as we say the words that lead us into a Shamnu, our communal confession.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ואל תיטל מחתינתנו, שאין אנחנו עזפנים וכשני עורף לאומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our prayers come before you, and may you not turn a deaf ear to our cries, for we are not so arrogant or stubborn to speak in your presence, Adonai, our God and God of our fathers and mothers, and say, we are righteous people who have not sinned, for indeed we have sinned. We rise together as we say these words of Ashamnu in the middle of page 62.
Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Kazarnu,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
ay, 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 Evinu,
Evinu,
Virshanu,
Ishanu,
Zadnu,
Savnu,
Hamasnu,
Havasnu,
Tafalnu Shaker,
Avalnu Shaker,
ay, 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 Yatznura,
Yatsnura,
Kizavnu,
Izarnu,
Latsnu,
Latsnu,
Maradnu,
Ravnu,
Yatsnu,
Yatsnu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Pashanu,
Hashanu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Kishinu Orev,
Ishinu Oref,
ay, 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 Veshanu,
Rashanu,
Shihatanu,
Shichatnu,
Tihavnu,
Yavnu,
Tahinu,
Tahinu,
Titanu,
Titanu,
Sarnu mimitzotecha umimishvatecha, הטובים ולא שווה לנו, ואתה צדיק על כל חבלינו, כי אמת עשית ואנחנו הרישנו.
We continue on page 65, near the bottom of the page, as we recite together these words of Al-Khait.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך באונס ורצון. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, על חטא שחטאנו באימוץ חלב, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בבלי דת. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בביטוי שפתיים, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי עריות, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגלוי והסתר, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעדת ובמרמה, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בדיבור פה, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בהונאת ראייה, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחרור חלב, ועל כולם אלוה הסליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
Page 66, for the sin that we have sinned before you by acquiescing in immorality, for the sin that we have sinned before you by expressing empty confessions, for the sin that we have sinned before you by disrespecting parents and teachers, for the sin that we have sinned before you intentionally, for the sin that we have sinned before you accidentally, for the sin that we have sinned before you by abuse of power, for the sin that we have sinned before you by acting so as to desecrate God's name, for the sin that we have sinned before you by speaking hypocritically, for the sin that we have sinned before you by speaking foolishly, for the sin that we have sinned before you with our evil inclination, for the sin that we have sinned before you knowingly, and for the sin that we have sinned before you not knowingly, for the sin that we have sinned before you by making false promises, and for the sin that we have sinned before you by lying, for the sin that we have sinned before you by taking bribes.
Selach lanu Slach lanu Michalanu, Slach lanu Michalanu, Kaper lanu. Al chet shehatanu lefanecha, Belatzor, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, Balshon hara, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, B'masa u'b'mata, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, B'machol u'mishtei, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, B'neshech u'amarba'ibit, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, b'intiyad garon, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, b'siyah sefitoteinu, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, b'sikur ayin, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, b'einayim ramot, al chet shehatanu lefanecha, b'azut meitzach, ve'al kulam elo aslikot, Slach lanu Michalanu, Kaper lanu, ve'al kulam elo aslikot, Slach lanu Michalanu, Slach lanu Michalanu, Kaper lanu.
Together on page 67, for the sin that we have sinned before you by being self-centered, for the sin that we have sinned before you by judging others, for the sin that we have sinned before you by covetousness, for the sin that we have sinned before you by jealousy, for the sin that we have sinned before you by irreverence, for the sin that we have sinned you by stubbornness, for the sin that we have sinned before you by rushing to do evil, for the sin that we have sinned before you by gossiping, for the sin that we have sinned before you by making promises we don't intend to keep, for the sin that we have sinned before you by baseless hatred, for the sin that we have sinned before you by abuse of trust, for the sin that we have sinned before you by succumbing to despair.
Ve'al kulam elo haslikot, Slach lanu Michalanu, Kaper lanu, ve'al kulam elo haslikot, Slach lanu Michalanu, Slach lanu Michalanu, Kaper lanu.
We turn now to page 72 as we invite Lisa Unger and Carolyn Fox to open our ark doors as we come to the words of Avinu Malkeinu. These words of Avinu Malkeinu come to us from the Talmud, from Masechet Ta'anit, from a collection of prayers saying, Our Father, our King. It was originally a prayer for rain. Why a prayer for rain as we open our ark doors? Why a prayer for rain do we bring into this day of Yom Kippur? The rabbis teach us that as we open these ark doors and look at these Sifrei Torah, that each of the words of this Torah will come and rain down upon us and soak us through. Just like a rainstorm would soak our clothing and our bodies, so should the words of Torah rain down on us and soak into our hearts and into our souls. And so we use these words of this ancient rain prayer, Avinu Malkeinu, our parent, our ruler. We stand before you, acknowledge our shortcomings, and ask you to bring us into a place where we have a clean slate to begin the new year. Page 72, Avinu Malkeinu.
פתח שערי שמיים עלי תפילתנו, אבינו מלכנו חטאנו לפניך, אבינו מלכנו אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, אבינו מלכנו עשה עמנו למען שמך, אבינו מלכנו חדש עלינו שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, שמע קולנו, אבינו מלכנו, חטאנו לפניך. אבינו מלכנו, חמול עלינו, ויעלול עלינו, ותפנו. אבינו מלכנו, קלי דבר, וחרב רב מעלינו. אבינו מלכנו, קלי כל צר ומסתים מעלינו. אבינו מלכנו, אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר חיים טובים. אבינו מלכנו, קדש עמנו, קדש עלינו, שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, אבינו מלכנו, קדש עלינו, שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, שמע קולנו, שמע קולנו, שמע קולנו. אבינו מלכנו, חננו ועננו. אבינו מלכנו, חננו ועננו, כי אין בנו מעשים, עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד, והושיענו. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד, והושיענו.
For those of you who have the tradition of sitting for Kaddish Aleim, you can be seated. For those of you who have the tradition of standing for Kaddish Aleim, you can remain standing. For those of you who are not sure what your tradition is, I recommend one of the first two options. We continue page 75 with Kaddish Aleim.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך ירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכונו ויומייכונו וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בהגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם לעולמי עולמי. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתחלל שמי לקודשה בריחו להילה להילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעולמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותנו ותיכון תכל ישראל קדם ובון דשמיא ואמרו אמן. יחי שלמה רבה בן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו Amen.
For those of you who are still standing, don't sit. For those of you who are seated, you can rise. As we'll come to page 77, as we call Dee Ripple to help open our ark doors. I believe she's out there somewhere. Or maybe we'll have Danny open our ark door. Rick, you open one of our ark doors for us? Come on, we'll steal you for a moment as well. We join together in Aleinu, the top of page 77. שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל כמותם אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נותן שמיים ויוסד ארץ ומושב יקרה בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו כך כתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשמותי אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד על כן נקבל לך אדוני אלוהינו לראות מי רבה תיברת וזכה לך וגולים לך הארץ וגולים הארץ תהיה כבירותי אדוני אלוהינו כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי תמלוך בכבוד ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר בחיי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום כהו יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו We can all be seated. We take a moment to think of those upon whose shoulders we stand. Those who taught us the lessons important in our lives. Those who built up the institutions and the families of which we are members. Earlier today, some of us gathered at Sons of Israel Cemetery for Kever Avot as we stood among the souls of those who came before us, of our loved ones, our family members, and our friends, those who are the history of our people. As we think of them, and we'll think of them again tomorrow during our Yizkor service, we say Yihiyu Nishmotam Bracha Lanu. May their souls always be a blessing to us. We think of those that are close to us. We think of the martyrs of our people. We think of all those who have been lost over the generations. We ask those whose tradition is to stand for Mourner's Kaddish to rise. If it's your tradition to be seated, you can remain seated. May their memories be a blessing. On page 80, in their memory, we sanctify God's name. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam amei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitchalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata.
תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. We can all be seated. Before we bring our service to a close, we have a few brief announcements. I've seen you here.
I promise this will be a lot faster than the last one. I have 3 announcements. Number 1, thank you to everybody who helped us build the sukkah today. That was very nice of you to show up and do it. It's always a fun event. Number 2, services tomorrow begin at 9:30 in the morning. Please come as soon as you can. And number 3, please join us tomorrow evening, 7-ish, for breaking the fast after the service. And that's all I've got to go.
Thank you. We turn in our Siddur to page 8, or our Machzor, in our Machzor to page 83 as we close our service with words based upon the teachings of Maimonides, the words of Yigdal.
יגדל אלוקים חי וישתבח, נמצא וענת אל מציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף באחדותו, אין לו דמות כגוף, אין לו גוף ולא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו, הינו אדון עולם. מתים יהיה חיה אל ברוך חסדו, ברוך הדיד שם תהילתו, מתים יהיה אל ברוך חסדו, ברוך הדיד שם תהילתו.
As we make our way through this Yom Kippur, may all of us be blessed with health and happiness. May we be written and sealed for a good year. Shana Tova U'Metuka, Gamar Chativa Tova V'Chativa Tova. We'll see you all tomorrow morning. Shana Tova.